Welcome to Into It with the Intuitive. I'm your host, Julie Bachos. Are you ready to get into it? Let's get started. Hello, everybody. I am so glad you could join us today. We have a great show for you. Today we're going to talk about blocks to connecting with your intuition. And when I'm talking about intuition, what intuition means to me is that inner knowing. It's that divine wisdom that's inside of each of us that always guides us in the right direction. So learning how to tap into that inner knowing, how to tap into our intuition is something that everybody needs to be able to do. Unfortunately, that's not a skill that we normally are taught when we're growing up. In fact, very early on, we're actually encouraged to suppress it. Children's opinions are often seen as inferior to adults. But in all actuality, what I've discovered with my own children and teaching them from a very early age how to tap into their intuition, they actually had a much easier time than I did trying to learn how to do this as an adult. And in fact, what they received was just as profound, if not more so, than any adult. I'll go more into how to teach your own kids how to connect to their intuition in some of my later shows. I do have an ebook called 14 Days of Activations for Families that provides a day-by-day guide with a fun activation that you can do as a family. These are some of the same activities that we used with our 4 children to teach them how to tap into their intuition when they were as young as 2 years old. You can purchase that on my website if you're interested. Our belief was always if we could teach them to tap into their intuition and hear for themselves, they could never be led astray. And that's my same passion and desire, not only for my children, but for you as well. It's one of the main reasons that I do what I do. It's so important that we recognize that our own inner wisdom, that divine knowledge inside of us, is always going to be our biggest advocate, our best friend, our wisest counselor, and our source of peace. There are basically 3 main blocks that people experience when they're trying to tap into their intuition. The first one is lack of understanding. We were just never taught how. The second is lack of confidence. And the third is heightened emotional state. Now, we've talked a little bit about a lack of understanding, about how we weren't really taught how to connect. And that's something that I'm passionate about teaching you here on the Into It with the Intuitive podcast. Normally, when people are first starting out learning how to tap into that intuition, they often ask me, well, how do I know if it's just my brain or myself thinking, or if it's actually my intuition, my inner wisdom? The number one cause of not being able to hear your intuition is overthinking, if you are actually hearing your intuition. So how do you remedy this problem? One of the ways that I suggest for my clients to get out of their head is to actually try writing down a question that they have, and then whatever they hear, write down the answer. You normally will be able to tell it's your intuition when you receive guidance that feels like it comes from the heart or your gut. It's like instinct. That inner knowing that you know it may not make sense, but you know that this is the right answer for you. It's when we start to second guess what we've heard and we let our mind get in the way that we struggle with accepting and believing that we really did hear from our intuition. If you check out some of our other shows, you will see additional activations to help you connect to hopefully make it a little bit easier. This brings us to block number 2, lack of confidence. How do you cure lack of confidence? Practice, practice, practice. As with anything, the more that you practice using it, the easier it gets and the better you get at it. You wouldn't expect to pick up a guitar and know how to play like John Bon Jovi right out of the gates. Yes, I know, I totally just dated myself right there. However, the same thing is true with your intuition. The more that you practice and get feedback and see how accurate you actually hear, the more your confidence will build and the easier it will be for you to trust in what you hear. If you're looking for a safe place to practice using your intuition for others, I invite you to join my private Facebook group called Awaken. We have weekly practice threads for you to tap into your intuition for someone else and then receive feedback to help you increase your confidence. I also do live readings and teachings on Awaken as well. Whenever I give an intuitive reading, I always tell my clients to filter what they hear through their own intuition. That if something speaks to their gut, hold on to that because their intuition knows them better than anyone else. I also incorporate intuition practice in each of my client readings because I don't want my clients to become dependent on my intuition. I want them to learn how to develop their own. This brings us to our third block, a heightened emotional state. We've all been there where fear, anxiety, depression, or stress has taken over. All intuitives at some time have blocks, especially if we're experiencing strong emotions or we're under a lot of stress and depleted and haven't replenished ourselves. It's not only those that consider themselves intuitives that can become depleted and struggle to connect to their inner knowing. If we aren't practicing good self-care, it makes it even harder for us to tap into our intuition. Our emotional state plays an important part in how we can connect and how easily we can hear. We'll talk more about the importance of positive self-care in a later podcast. But for now, think about what you need to recharge and energize yourself. And I challenge you to try to do that today. I'm sure we all could use a little self-care, especially after everything we've been going through these last 2 years. There's no right or wrong way to practice self-care. It's whatever activity fills you up. Some of my go-to activities to replenish myself are a hot bath with Epsom salt and lavender oil, going outside and actually putting my feet in the grass, or sitting on my deck with my puppies, enjoying nature while enjoying a good book. Now you have the opportunity to tap into your own intuition. Make sure before you start to do this activity that you are not driving or operating any heavy machinery. The first thing that we want to do is ground ourselves. Make sure your feet are flat on the floor and you're sitting up straight. If you prefer, you can also lay down. It's whatever makes you the most comfortable. Make sure you have at least 5 minutes where you won't be disturbed to complete this activity. Let's start by taking a deep breath in through our nose and push it out through our mouth. We are going to repeat that for 2 more breaths. We will inhale through our nose and exhale through our mouth. One more time. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. I want you to think of a color. You may see the word, you may actually see the color, or you may just have a feeling of what that color is. The first color that pops into your mind is the color that I want you to write down and further explore. Once you have your color written down, I want you to just think about what that color means to you. Does it have any significance in your life? Does it remind you of anything? Be sure to write your answers down on the same piece of paper that you wrote your color. For those of you that see in pictures, feel free to draw the pictures that you see in your mind's eye on the paper instead. If you need to, pause the podcast to give yourself as much time as you need to complete the activity. Once you've finished writing down or drawing all the different connections that you have to this color, it's time to dig a little bit deeper. Did you know that every color has a spiritual meaning? I have a blog post on my website today that goes into the spiritual meaning of different colors. If you really want to go more in depth, do an internet search. Search for spiritual meaning of color and replace the word color with the color that you have written down at the top of your paper. I always love these types of activities because it feels like a treasure hunt for me. So embrace that inner child and have some fun. As you're looking through what the spiritual meanings are of different colors, make sure that you write down anything that speaks to you or feels like it was written just for you, and know that it was. This is your intuition. This is your higher knowing speaking to you today and giving you the encouragement, edification, and acknowledgement that you need to be confident in your own intuitive skills. If you want to go a step farther and tap into those psychic abilities, go ahead and ask for a color for a specific person in your life. Be sure to share what you get with that person so that you can receive feedback, because feedback helps us grow and increases our confidence. Keep practicing. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram for more activations and live readings. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. I hope to see you back soon.